She was asleep on her couch. It was a quiet afternoon in Alabama. She was under a blanket. The house was still, nothing unusual. Just a woman taking a nap on an ordinary Tuesday in November, and then something came through the ceiling. It punched through the roof. It bounced off her radio, and it hit her directly in the hip. The rock that hit Ann Hodges on November 30th, 1954 had been traveling through space for 4.5 billion years. It had been formed before the Earth existed, before the sun fully ignited, before any human being had ever drawn breath on this planet. And after 4.5 billion years of drifting silently through the universe, it chose her couch. Ann Hodges is the only confirmed human being in recorded history to have been struck by a meteorite, and surviving the impact was actually the easy part. To understand what happened that afternoon, you need to understand what the world felt like in November 1954. The Cold War was at its absolute peak. American towns lived under the constant anxiety of Soviet attack. Every unusual sound, every flash in the sky, every unexplained boom was a potential threat. Civil defense sirens were tested regularly. Schools ran nuclear attack drills. People genuinely believed that any day, any ordinary Tuesday afternoon, could be the day the bombs came. So when locals in Sylacauga, Alabama, reported a bright fireball streaking across the afternoon sky, followed by a series of massive sonic booms, panic spread through the town immediately. People ran into the streets. Phones flooded the police switchboard. The military was alerted. Everyone assumed the same thing. The Soviets had struck. And somewhere in the middle of all of this chaos, a 34-year-old woman named Ann Hodges was lying on her living room couch in her rented house in the Oak Grove community, covered in quilts, completely unaware that anything had happened. She hadn't heard the sonic boom. She hadn't seen the fireball. She just felt something hit her hard in the hip. Before we go further, if you're finding this story as extraordinary as I do, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. We find these incredible true stories every single day, and you won't want to miss what's coming next. The rock that struck her weighed 8.5 pounds. It was the size of a grapefruit. It was a chondrite, one of the oldest types of rock in the entire solar system, made of iron and nickel, formed approximately 4.5 billion years ago, before Earth itself existed. It had entered the Earth's atmosphere, traveling at tens of thousands of miles per hour. As it hit the atmosphere, it broke apart. One large piece continuing its descent towards Sylacauga, Alabama. It punched through Ann Hodges' roof at 2:46 in the afternoon. It ricocheted off her large wooden radio console, and it slammed into her left hip with enough force to leave a bruise the size and shape of a pineapple. The blanket she had pulled over herself probably saved her life. It slowed the rock's trajectory just enough that the impact didn't shatter her pelvis. She was taken to hospital. Doctors examined her thoroughly and confirmed she had no broken bones, a deep, painful bruise, significant shock, but physically, she would survive. The meteorite, however, was already causing problems. Within hours, the military had arrived and confiscated the rock. This was 1954. A mysterious object falling from the sky and crashing through a civilian's home in the middle of Cold War America was not something the Air Force was going to leave sitting on someone's living room floor while the country panicked about Soviet missiles. They took it, examined it, confirmed it was a meteorite, and then released it back to the local authorities. And that is when the real trouble started, because now everyone wanted the rock. Ann Hodges' landlady, a woman named Birdie Guy, claimed the meteorite was rightfully hers. It had fallen on her property, her land, her roof that now had a hole in it. Therefore, she argued, her rock. Ann Hodges disagreed completely. The rock had hit her body. She had the bruise to prove it. A bruise that had been photographed and published in newspapers across America. She had suffered. She had been struck by something that had traveled 4.5 billion years across the universe. God, she said publicly, had intended it for her. What followed was a year-long legal battle over an 8.5-pound piece of space rock. Think about that for a moment. Two women in a courtroom in Alabama arguing over who owned a rock that had formed before the dinosaurs existed. Ann Hodges won. Her landlady eventually settled out of court. The meteorite was returned to Ann and her husband Eugene. But by then, the damage was already done, because the legal battle was only one of the things destroying Ann Hodges' life. The media attention was the other. She became famous overnight. Her photograph appeared on the cover of Life magazine under the headline, "A Big Bruiser from the Sky." Reporters camped outside her house. Strangers drove from across the country to stand outside and stare at the house where it had happened. Scientists wanted to study her. Television crews wanted to film her. Universities sent researchers. Astronomers gave interviews about her. Everyone wanted a piece of the only human being in history to have been struck by a meteorite. Ann Hodges was a quiet, deeply private woman from a small Alabama town. She had not asked for any of this. She had not done anything remarkable. She had simply been asleep in the wrong place at the right moment in 4.5 billion years of cosmic history. The constant attention overwhelmed her. The stress triggered a nervous breakdown. She was hospitalized. Her physical health, which had been perfectly fine at the exact moment the meteorite struck her, began to collapse under the weight of the fame that followed the impact. The irony is almost too much to process. A rock from space hit her and barely hurt her. But the world's reaction to that rock broke her completely. In 1956, just 2 years after the strike, Ann Hodges made a decision that told you everything about where she was mentally. She donated the meteorite to the Alabama Museum of Natural History. She gave it away for free. The rock that the entire world was fascinated by. The rock that scientists valued highly. The rock that her landlady had gone to court to try to take from her. She just gave it to a museum and walked away. She wanted to be done with it. She wanted her ordinary life back, but ordinary life never came back. In 1964, 10 years after the most extraordinary thing that has ever happened to any human being in history, Ann and her husband Eugene divorced. The stress, the breakdown, the years of unwanted attention, all of it had taken its toll on their marriage. Ann Hodges spent her final years largely alone. Her health continued to deteriorate. She died in 1972 at the age of 52 of kidney failure in a nursing home, far from the brief and brutal fame that had consumed the middle years of her life. Her neighbor, a local farmer named Julius McKinney, found a smaller fragment of the same meteorite in a field near the house shortly after the strike. He sold it, made enough money from that single piece of space rock to buy himself a car and a small plot of land. The same meteorite that destroyed Ann Hodges' life handed her neighbor a modest fortune. Today, the Hodges meteorite sits in the Alabama Museum of Natural History in Tuscaloosa. Tourists visit it, scientists study it, children press their faces against the display case and stare at the ancient rock from space. Nobody thinks much about Ann Hodges. An astronomer once tried to calculate the odds of what happened to her. He concluded that you have a better chance of being caught in a tornado, struck by lightning, and swept up in a hurricane all simultaneously than of being hit by a falling meteorite. Ann Hodges beat those odds, and it cost her everything. Drop a comment below. If a meteorite made you the most famous person on Earth overnight, would you embrace it or run from it like she did? We cover the most mind-blowing true stories from around the world every single week. Hit subscribe and turn on notifications because you will not want to miss what is coming next. See you in the next one.